How appropriate is this? It is Friday the 13th, it is October, and we're talking about horror movies. I do not have anything to say about the Friday the 13th series this year. Let's watch Zombieland. A few months after a virus spreads across the world, turning people into aggressive, mindless zombies, 4 survivors cross paths in various ways. After some initial hostility and some armed robbery, the 4 go off together to find either living relatives in another city, a good time wherever, or an amusement park called Pacific Playland, where there are reportedly no zombies. They are wrong. As overexposed and constantly quoted as it is, I do think Zombieland is worth mentioning in the great horror comedies. For one simple reason, it's not based on anything else. It's not a parody of horror films, it's not a lengthy homage to past directors or films, it's just its own film. It's a pure comedy set in a zombie universe. As far as I can tell, they don't even mention other zombie films within the context of the story, which is actually pretty impressive. I mean, they mention other pop culture staples of the time, and it's kind of funny to look back at when the movie was made.
You got a purty mouth.
In a way, it kind of dates it, but I think that's just because nobody knew exactly what Miley Cyrus would be up to in just a few years.
Yes, but no, she's not. She's not. She's only famous when she's Hannah Montana, when she's wearing the wig.
Okay.
Little Miss Sunshine is explaining to one of the characters from Natural Born Killers who Hannah Montana is. How the hell can you not like this movie?
It's been 2 months since Patient Zero took a bite of a contaminated burger at a gas and gulp. Just 2 months and I might be the last non-cannibal freak in the country. I may see...
The world Zombieland creates is purely its own, with a start, middle, and temporary conclusion within. I also like that they flat out give you reasons for why a zombie outbreak started. It's kind of a trend that I've noticed depending on the speed and ferocity of the zombies. Walking Dead and Romero zombies, even Shaun of the Dead, don't really explain why the zombies have come back to life, but the faster zombies, like in this one and in 28 Days Later, Return of the Living Dead, they have a specific cause that's either shown on screen or it's explained in depth. I don't really have a point for this, it's just something I noticed.
Thank God for rednecks. This is a really big truck, and these are really big guns.
This type of end-of-the-world zombie scenario is the type I find I enjoy the most in these types of movies. It's not bogged down by a huge cast of characters, just a smaller, confined group of survivors with distinct personalities.
Where are you headed?
Columbus. You?
Tallahassee.
Another thing that I like is that the characters here don't even have first and last names. They feel they don't want to get too attached in case any member of the group dies at any moment. They rely on their hometowns, their ideal destinations, even apartment buildings.
I don't usually unlock my door to the sounds of panic, but my neighbor 406 is insanely hot.
Which kind of works, but if you give somebody a name as a placeholder for their actual name, you're still naming them and you could still connect to that. Whatever, I still think it's an okay idea. From what I can tell, there's only one person with a full given name, and that's because he's a real person.
God damn it, Bill fucking Murray!
And in case it needed to be said, the cast itself is pretty damn good. You can tell that they had a lot of fun making this. Jesse Eisenberg is Columbus, and he pretty much plays himself, just placed in a crazy situation. And given Jesse Eisenberg's roles, I think that's the best way to play him. The two sisters, played by Emma Stone and Abigail Breslin, are cool. I really like it when Emma Stone really just lets loose and enjoys herself, and she's really fun to watch in this. And Little Miss Sunshine is legit one of my favorite movies of all time, so I like seeing Breslin in more crazy roles, especially as she was just starting out. But it's really no surprise who steals the show here.
You see, he was in the ass-kicking business, and...
Business is good.
Woody Harrelson as Tallahassee is one of the most enjoyable roles I have ever seen in a zombie film. He is overly badass, has some of the funniest lines in the movie, and all in all, you can tell he's the only person on the planet who's kind of glad this whole apocalypse thing happened.
I haven't cried like that since Titanic.
When you're watching a movie like this a couple of times over, I feel like you have to really immerse yourself in the universe and imagine what you would do in this situation, and I like to think that even though the rules that Columbus lays down are very helpful, and they do take into factors that will help you. I think Tallahassee's mentality is a good way to go about things.
A Vortex 6-fucking-liter V8, a box full of hollow points, and Lord willing, a GD Twinkie. Gotta enjoy the little things.
It's also how I feel about the movie. You gotta enjoy the little things. The little things about this movie are the things that I like the most. Everybody has great chemistry, and you get a lot of information from the people through stupid conversation.
You got taken hostage by a 12-year-old?
Well, girls mature faster than boys. She's way ahead of where I was at that age.
12's the new 20. Gun, please.
This guy has a direct line to my funny bone. I mean,
Boy, who's Bill Murray?
Yeah, I've never hit a kid before.
I also like the variety of sets that the film goes through. It goes from a barren highway to an abandoned Hollywood, then to an amusement park, which from the haunted house to the high-rise ride is basically something straight out of Left 4 Dead.
And look, Ellis, it's Kittyland.
Do I look like some sort of queer to you?
But you know what? A zombie movie can only be as good as the zombies themselves. And the ones here are pretty fun to watch. They're faster than Romero's zombies, but not overly fast like the infected from 28 Days Later. They have a variety of sizes, shapes, and ages. I mean, there are little kid zombies attacking a mother at a birthday party. That's awesome. And there's a bride zombie disrupting her own wedding. It gives you a couple of really interesting, really funny scenarios. And then some creepy ones, like the clown towards the end.
Look at this fucking clown. Of course.
I will fight to the death. That clown is scarier than Pennywise in every way. It just reminds me of Day of the Dead, where they showed zombies wearing all different types of different but still distinguishable outfits, like they were too busy being attacked to change their clothes. Oh, Marching Band Zombie, you'll always be one of my favorites. But at the same moment, while you're laughing at the absurdity of the situation and the jokes that they have with the premise, the zombies do always seem like a constant threat. Their design is slimy and creepy. They have a lot of great moments where they drool and bite people. Yes, they're dumb, but they're still dangerous. I mean, look at that opening. Jesus, there are serious horror films that don't open with the White House being destroyed and the president's motorcade being overturned. The zombies are dispatched in a bunch of creative ways, some of them leading to some interesting scenes. And I love it because it's only now and then that you see a survival zombie movie where every single character is not only capable of taking care of themselves, they know what the hell they're doing. None of the characters here need to be led by the hand by somebody else or hold off for safety while everybody else fights. They all get in on the action, they all attack, and everybody lives to the end. And even the tropes of zombie movies that you knew were going to be in this film that are constantly overused, the film kind of turns on its end. Like, they use the drama of the family member being bitten, and there has to be a choice to kill them, but it turns into a robbery instead.
You need some help?
Now that you mention it. We'll take your weapons, your car keys, your ammunition.
And if you've got it, sugarless cup.
I also like that instead of holing up in a house and waiting for safety to come to them, they search for new safe havens themselves, and they take in some of the riches along the way, because there are supplies and good stuff to be found in an open world. I only watched a couple episodes of The Last Man on Earth, but the first 20 minutes are my favorite because that's the exact type of stupid crap that I would do if I was alone in the world. And these guys follow pretty much the same pattern. They steal a ton of money, they wreck a couple of stores for fun, they check out some of the more lavish mansions in the neighborhoods they come across, which leads to, obviously, the greatest cameo in horror movie history.
Oh, God, I'm on fire!
You could get enough laughs out of just Bill Murray's house being a set piece, but then Murray actually shows up on screen, they get high with him, they reenact his movie roles.
Oh, of
Light him up, Ray! See you on the other side, Pete.
Oh, he's so disgusting.
And they even play some lighthearted jokes on some of the other survivors.
No!
It doesn't go over very well.
Is that how you say hello? Where you come from?
Oh my god. Oh my god, I can't believe I shot Bill Murray.
Bill Murray is the only character in the entire film to have a full name and be killed on screen.
I'm sorry, it just gets me. but it still is sad.
There are a couple of problems I have with the movie. A couple of the jokes don't really land, and they hammer in some repeated jokes every now and then, but the biggest problem I have is this. The climax is awful. First of all, they do the stupid thing where the characters split up for a dumb reason, and you know they're just going to get together in the end anyway. And the group that don't trust nobody, and that's how they've survived, learns how to love and accept other people. And that's fine, it's fine. It's sappy and overused, but it's fine. The biggest problem is this. I don't believe for a second that these two characters specifically would A, lead zombies into an open, well-lit area, B, attract them with purty lights, and C, put themselves in a situation where they would be helpless and vulnerable and unable to stop them. If they're the last people alive in a zombie apocalypse, even if they believed there would be no zombies there for some reason, they still made all of the dumbest decisions that they could make. These were people who outsmarted a guy like Tallahassee. Why not visit the park during the day?
Open sesame.
Why wouldn't you go when it was still bright out, leave the lights off, and just kind of enjoy yourself as limited as possible? But really, if that's the biggest problem I have with this movie, that in a zombie apocalypse, a bunch of people make dumb decisions, maybe that says a lot about the movie as a whole. This could have been a stupid cash grab of a film, but instead, there was a lot of care and effort put into it, and it shows off in the end. It's well written, it's funny as hell, it has great characters, and it's a pretty interesting take on the whole zombie apocalypse genre. And yeah, like most parodies, there are times where it seems too tongue-in-cheek for its own good, but god damn it, is it fun. It's not too scary for comedy fans, it's not too silly for the horror fans, it reaches that nice blend. There's only a few modern horror comedies that manage to strike a perfect balance between funny, scary, stupid, and also very well made. But Zombieland is one of the most successful, and Zombieland is definitely one of the best.
You guys want some Purell?
Yes.
Yeah.
Next week, we're going to take a break from movies and focus on music instead. And we're finally going to do a hit list I have been waiting to do for years.